Since Will Smith chooses to stand behind Jada, it's time to step away from Will Smith.
Now available in paperback and Kindle, All About Marilyn. Learn all about the struggles of a faded former teen sitcom star in this absolutely fabulous 5-star screenplay. Get All About Marilyn in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com today.
Better get the cool slow, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. Recently, Academy Award-winning actor Will Smith continued to profess his unwavering love for his wife Jada Pinkett Smith at a recent event to promote her new memoir, Worthy. Now, at this event to go out here and promote Jada's new book, Worthy, Will Smith went up on stage and hugged his estranged wife, Jada Pinkett, and vowed to support her for the rest of her life. Now, this unwavering support comes even as Jada Pinkett has basically expressed contempt for Will Smith in the pages of Worthy, going on to talk about how late rapper Tupac Shakur is her soulmate, and also goes out here and makes a claim that Tupac Shakur, while he was in Rikers Island in 1995, went out here and made a marriage proposal to her. And after dropping these bombshells as related to Worthy, she also goes on to talk about how she didn't understand why Will Smith stormed up on the stage of the 2022 Oscars and slapped comedian Chris Rock for making a joke about her regarding the starring in G.I. Jane 2, when she claims that she and Will Smith were separated since 2016. Now, after all of these statements that are designed to not only go out here and show her contempt and emasculate Will Smith continues to go out here and show his unyielding support for Jada Pinkett, even though she has gone out here on this book tour and openly disrespected him on mainstream media platforms. Will Smith continues to show support for Jada Pinkett, vowing to support her for the rest of his life. And he makes this vow even though Jada Pinkett took him on her talk show that he financed, Red Table Talk, and told him that she had an entanglement with her son's best friend, August Alsina. Now, I just have to shake my head at Will Smith going out here and continuing to declare love for a woman who is showing him no love at all and has shown that she is looking to dishonor him in the openly in public. Now, when I look at Will Smith's behavior, again, it makes me shake my head because Will Smith at this point is choosing to be a pathetic individual, and when you choose to be a pathetic individual, what happens is this is where people have to take action, because if a man doesn't want to respect himself, then we need to take our respect by walking away from that individual. And with Will Smith, he's just so pathetic at this point that he's willingly and openly letting Jada Pinkett disrespect him in a public circle. And if he decides to go out here and again willfully and intentionally allow himself to be disrespected, that is where people have to go out here and cut our ties with Will Smith and leave him to fall to the place known as rock bottom. Now, this is something that I learned when I was working at the Strive Job Readiness Workshop, where we worked with some of the people at the lowest parts of society, such as drug addicts, alcoholics, and ex-offenders. And when I was working with the trainers there, they would tell me that when it comes to individuals, they, in this cases, are in denial. And with Will Smith, he is in a bad case of denial about his relationship. You have Jada going out here and saying that the relationship is over, But Will Smith refuses to acknowledge that the relationship is over, and since he decides to just refuse to acknowledge this, we have to acknowledge that Will Smith is an individual who refuses to change, and because he refuses to change, it's time for us to just change how we deal with Will Smith. Because when you're dealing with an individual who willfully and intentionally chooses to be pathetic, what happens is you have to go out here and decide to mitigate your losses as related to this individual. Because since this individual refuses to go out here and acknowledge that they have a problem, all they're looking for are people to enable their dysfunction. And because they're looking for someone to enable their dysfunction, they get attention from playing the role of the victim. And that's exactly what Will Smith is trying to do, trying to make us feel sorry for him as related to this whole situation with Jada Pinkett disrespecting him. And since he refuses to take his respect, we have to take away our attention from this individual. That is how you deal with individuals who are pathetic and refuse to walk away from a toxic situation. What you have to do is leave them to that toxic situation and leave them to self-destruct. Because since this individual is in denial, the only way for them to acknowledge that they have a problem is to go hit the place called rock bottom. And it's at the place of rock bottom where they realize that they basically are in a place where their life is just in ruins, and that is the only place where they're going to go out here and make a change. This is something I went in depth on in my screenplay all about Marilyn, with the Marilyn Marie character who had caught the acting bug, and at 34 years old wasn't acknowledging that her acting career was basically over and it was time to move on, until she had a tragic incident on a movie that she was looking to go out here and look to get done when she was a big-time star. And the same thing happens with Will Smith. He's a big-time star in denial about the state of his marriage, a marriage that was basically over, and doesn't want to go out here and file for divorce, not because of losing his fortune, but because he's afraid of breaking away from a toxic and codependent relationship with Jada Pinkett, where she has gained a tremendous amount of power over Will Smith and uses that power to humiliate and emasculate this man, taking away his agency and power. And the only thing that allows him to remain in that position is because he continues to receive attention from the public, because bad publicity is better than no publicity. But at this point, it's just time to become indifferent about Will Smith, the way most people do whenever we run into a pathetic individual, because you reach a point when you're dealing with a pathetic individual where they have no interest in making any changes, and you just get tired of hearing about all of their problems. Because when it comes to pathetic individuals, when they willfully and intentionally choose to remain in toxic situations, like when women choose to stay with a pookie or a bad boyfriend, or when a guy chooses to stay with a toxic woman like Jada Pinkett, this is where you wind up cutting that person off and leaving them to the tender mercies of the individual that they say that they love so much. So since this Will Smith has said he loves Jada so much, it's time to leave Will to Jada and cut off all contact with him, cut him off to the point where he's not invited to parties, he's not invited to social situations, he's not invited to go to auditions or go to act or goes to gigs that he's not contracted to, because he's considered to be a poison individual. And because he's a poison individual, this is why you cut this individual out of your social circles and charge that individual to the game. Because if he don't want to go out here and get his stuff together, then it's time to get him out of your social life. And that's what people do all the time to dysfunctional relatives who are drug addicts, alcoholics, or involved with people like dope dealers or pookies, what they do is cut that individual out of their life because since this person doesn't want to get their stuff together, that's where people just say, okay, it's time to put a period at the end of things as related to me talking to this individual, because since this dude doesn't want to go out here and take his respect, then I'm not going to allow a person who is disrespectful like Jada Pinkett to be in my social circle, because if I'm friends with this person, that guy's going to want to bring this person around me. So what I'm going to do is cut off all contact with that individual, charge them both to the game, leave them to each other, because that's what people do as related to maintaining their mental health. What they do is cut toxic people out of their lives, and Will Smith has become just as toxic as Jada because he's maintaining this codependent relationship, and since he wants to give his unyielding support to Jada Pinkett, who has basically, again, disrespected him, he can stay with that woman in that whole pathetic situation and be left to that whole pathetic situation, and the rest of us can get on with our lives. Will's got his Oscar, he's got his millions, and he can be left to that whole situation. That's what can happen to Will Smith at this point, because again, if a woman comes out and openly says, oh, I've been separated from you since 2016. I'm professing my love for another man who's been dead for 25 years, and I'm going out here and I want to go out here and tell stories that disrespect me, then that's the time that for any other man of character, they would have been filed for divorce because they would have had a legitimate case as related to the entanglement being adultery, and they would have cut ties with Jada, and they would have cut ties with Jada, gone on with their life. But with many pathetic individuals, what happens is, again, because they have not hit rock bottom, they don't want to go out into the world to start life over because they're scared. And that's the thing that, as Will Smith, he would rather stay in this smooth world where everything is dysfunctional rather than go out here and deal with the roughness of life and rebuild a life at 55 or 50, whatever he's old. Again, he would rather remain set in an old way of dysfunction instead of trying to go out here and salvage his life and go on to live the abundant life that the Most High would have for him. Instead of looking to get the blessings of the Most High, what Will wants to do is continue to remain with this succubus. And as he wants to continue remaining with this succubus, he would rather have this succubus take his soul to hell and miss out on the kingdom. That's where Will Smith is right now, because him being emasculated like this really reminds me a lot of what happened with Ahab and Jezebel. I mean, Jezebel basically took over Israel and was running the kingdom, and Ahab was basically a weak guy who allowed it to happen because he didn't want to follow the Most High. So when I look at Will Smith again, this is a sad, pathetic individual, and one of the worst things about being pathetic is you don't want to take your power. And again, when you choose not to take your power and willfully and intentionally choose not to take your power, that's when people lose all respect for you, because there's a difference between a guy who doesn't know about his power as a man and a man who just chooses not to take his power at all. I mean, when I was a teenager, I was in a place similar to Will Smith. I was being bullied because people were telling me I needed to have a girlfriend. And I saw my life going nowhere because in the school I was in, I was like not really doing well the way I wanted to. And I said, since I'm not doing what I want to do, I want to get this diploma. This is where I didn't know that I was in a bad situation. I prayed to the Most High, and I asked him to change my life, and I had to wind up changing schools in order to get the life that I wanted, but I made efforts to make those changes to my life to make things better, and the Most High facilitated those changes. And even though I had to do another year in high school, I still got my diploma. Again, when I had a situation, I saw things weren't working, and I decided to make changes, and the Most High facilitated changes, and I was able to make those changes and move on. But Will Smith is one of those individuals he sees the situation as bad. He's willing to stay in the bad marriage for life. He's willfully and intentionally staying in that situation. And when a guy chooses to stay in a bad situation, that's where everybody from men and women who are healthy choose to cut ties with that individual. And they choose to cut ties with that individual because since this person does not want to change, then we need to change how we deal with them. And when we change how we deal with them, at that point, we leave them to the fate that they have. And again, we leave them to that fate because this is what they choose as related to the life that they want to live. And if you choose to live a life of toxicity, then you need to be left to that life of toxicity. And you need to be left to that life of toxicity because this is the life you want to live. And again, I have no sympathy for an individual who chooses to remain pathetic, because if you choose to remain pathetic, then that's your choice. And if you choose to remain pathetic and you choose to keep falling in that state towards rock bottom, then you need to hit rock bottom. And that's where Will Smith is right now, where people are just going to have to start walking away from him and let him take that descent to rock bottom. And it's a sad thing to watch happen as related to one of the greatest entertainers of the 1990s, to watch him fall on this descent. But this is the life that he chose to live. And if he wants to choose to be a Hollywood tragedy, then that's all on him, because at this point, it's his choice of what life he wants to live. And if he chooses to live a life where he's looking to make his career into a tragedy, then I have no problem walking away from him and reading about whatever tragedy happens in the news, whether it be him basically winding up in a situation where he falls to rock bottom, or possibly reading about his future obituary. Now, if you want to pick up my screenplay where I talk about this a faded former teen sitcom star who is on that road to descent and then eventually rises out of rock bottom, you can pick up my screenplay all about Marilyn on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find all about Marilyn at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And if you want to pick up some of my other fantasy fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, or my vampire novel Eternal Night, or my business book A Recipe for Success, or my Black sorority novel The Thetas, you can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And if you'd like to see me do more videos taking celebrities to the barbecue, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose. The man who rules the world runs into the irresistible force of a man with nothing to lose in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get the regular and variant editions of John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose on Amazon.com today.
Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.